right, we are back, and we are locked in right here at the 15th Annual Player Networking event, and we're rejoined by Ray Lewis. Ray?
No, that's Ellis. Come on, man.
Ray Lewis?
Come on, man. Why you want to do that
Can you make
to
a
me?
joke? I mean,
Wow.
Ray
I
Lewis.
gotta tell you, you know who told me to
Wow.
tell you that? You know who told me to tell you that?
Who's that?
Daryl Clark.
Oh yeah, Clark. That's that cowboy thing, man. That's a cowboy thing. But no, I'm glad to come back onto the show. It's been a great 3 hours. 2 hours?
You've been a
2
busy
hours.
man.
Yeah, well, you know, it's 15 years. There's a lot to talk about in 15 years, and Guy Troop is the individual that's been doing that for 15 years, and he's not only provided direction for me, but he's done it for others, and he's got a tremendous network, including the man who's sitting next to me too, and that's Shawn Moore. Shawn, who himself had to go through that transition. He's doing an excellent job, and now with college football playoffs, so I'm glad Shawn's joined us on the show as well.
Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your transition.
Well, you know, I had the opportunity to play 5 years professionally, and afterwards, it's always a tough transition in terms of determining what you want to do. But I was fortunate enough to meet Guy Troop right after I finished playing, and was able to obtain a position at the NCAA on the enforcement staff. So that was my first job right out of the gate. I was an enforcement officer for the NCAA in 1998 to 2000, and it was by far one of the most knowledgeable positions I've ever had. And that position allowed me to gain some success and work in the sports arena for the last 16, 17 years.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. What have you gone through, for instance, you can impart with some of the younger players that are actually coming up on that transition?
Well, I tell you this, in this day and age, I have a son who's a 21-year-old senior right now, and so I'm trying to instill this attitude that you have to start preparing. You know, every kid you talk to at the collegiate level wants to play at the next level. They all want to play pro ball. Most of them don't have a plan. They don't have a plan if they don't make it. And so I'm just trying to instill in his head right now, look, start looking at internships, think about what you want to do when the time is over, when you're done playing ball. And so most of them don't want to think about it. They don't want to deal with the idea of, well, what am I going to do? They just think that it's going to happen. I mean, that's the mindset I think we all as athletes had at one point or another. We'll figure it out when it's time. But that's the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan. You have to have plan B in place.
You know, I think a lot of things that you see when you watch pro sports, especially in the NFL, you hear like players like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, where they're getting up in their mid to late 30s, and you know, they're still playing, and people see that and are like, wow, they're still so good. They're still so good. They must have been playing. You know, I think a lot of people just who don't know the statistics see that they started when they were maybe in their late teens, early 20s, when they started to get into progressing towards playing pro, and now they're almost middle age, and they're like, I don't think they know what they're up against. You know, I don't think they know what they went through to get to that level that you guys actually played at. Not to mention is what you have to do beyond.
The problem is there are only a very small percentage of Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's of the world, those guys that play beyond 10 years. The average length of playing time is really 3 years or less. So if there's 1,700 players in the NFL, then there's probably 1,600 every year that need to really start preparing for life after football, because there's only a few that's going to play beyond 10 years, a small percentage. So those are the guys that I'm talking about that really need to start putting plan B in place, looking at internships, looking at what they want to do when they grow up. That's what I always say. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, that's pretty important. You have to obviously, I think when we go out and see homeowners, and I tell them they're going to start making choices about what they need to do when they do major remodel work. We go out, I tell them, always make sure I tell them to have a primary goal of what you want to do, as well as a secondary goal, so that this way you know exactly if you have something that you really like, a product, when you want to buy it, but in case it's beyond what you want to spend, you have to have that backup plan. So you don't have to worry about, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I have to scrap it. I don't think any pro player, and tell me if I'm wrong, who actually had that goal of becoming a pro ever thought that, well, if I don't make it, what am I going to do? You know, they're so focused on getting
Right.
to that point
Right.
that when something crashes, it's like, oh my God.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, have you learned a lot from this gentleman?
That gentleman taught me so many things.
Well, you know,
quarterbacks are always the guys who teach everybody. They're the great example, and I really mean that. I am just so happy for the success that Shawn has had off the field. And particularly, I got a chance to spend some time with him in Dallas to see the Ohio State Buckeyes win that national championship, and they put on an excellent show. It was a great product, and he was a part of that product. Does some great work in the community, and he's just a great example. So no, he's teaching me, and what I mean by that, a lot of times, the older can learn from the younger, and I'm glad to embrace that.
Well, hey, you know, it's like I said, we're never too old or too young to learn something from somebody else. And I think as long as you have an open mind and you embrace that thought pattern, you're going to go a long way. You've got to go a long way. And I know you guys, and I feel honored that I am here among all you great players here today to be able to learn so much about what you guys have gone through. And if I could only impart a little bit of my experience to you guys, I mean, it just gets me, it gets me right here. It swells me up.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. The game would be nothing without the fans, and we certainly appreciate that. We understand that, and we hope that we continue to have your support and all those other fans out there.
Oh, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a short break. We've got one more surprise for you before we wrap up the show, so don't go away. You're listening to Image Home Improvement Live right here at the 15th Annual Player Network event.